The alarm screamed through the command center of Station Apex, the heart of the Deathworld Alliance. Commander Vroktal's four eyes widened as the sensor data flooded his screens. His thick armored skin, built to withstand the crushing gravity of his homeworld, prickled with something he rarely felt. Fear. Impossible, he growled, his voice like grinding rocks. Nothing that size should be able to move through dark space. The object on the screen was massive, larger than any ship the Alliance had ever built. It emerged from the void between stars like a predator stepping from shadows. The vessel was black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Its surface was smooth and seamless, as if it had been grown rather than constructed. Classification? Vroktal demanded. His second-in-command, a Krethian named Celix, worked frantically at her console. The Krethians were among the toughest species in the galaxy, evolved on a world where the atmosphere itself was poison, and the gravity could crush lesser beings. Her 6 arms moved in a blur across the controls. Unknown design. Unknown energy signature. Commander, it's not broadcasting any identification codes. She paused, her mandibles clicking nervously. It's not responding to our hails. The Deathworld Alliance had stood for 300 cycles. 9 species, all from the harshest worlds imaginable, had joined together in mutual defense and prosperity. They were the strongest, the most resilient, the most dangerous civilizations in known space. Planets with gravity that would flatten most organics. Worlds where the very air could kill. Environments so hostile that survival itself was a daily battle. And they had never encountered a threat they couldn't handle. Until now. Send the Krethian defense fleet to intercept, Vroktal ordered. Full combat protocols. Whatever that thing is, we show it that this space belongs to the Alliance. Sally hesitated. Commander, perhaps we should wait for reinforcements. The Krethian fleet can handle 1 ship. Vroktal interrupted. Even a large one. He watched the tactical display as 37 Krethian warships moved into position. These were not simple patrol craft. Each vessel carried weapons capable of cracking planets. Their crews were warriors who had trained in environments that would kill most species in minutes. They formed a battle formation that had never failed in 2 centuries of conflicts. The unknown ship, the sensors were now calling it the Phantom, did not alter course. It did not slow. It simply continued forward as if the warships did not exist. The Krethian commander is hailing the vessel, Celix reported. Standard warning. Identify yourself or be fired upon. Silence. The Phantom glided forward, its massive form seeming to drink in the darkness of space around it. The Krethians are opening fire. Vroktal leaned forward, watching intently. Brilliant streaks of energy lanced through space, enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. The weapon struck the Phantom's hull and nothing. The energy simply vanished, absorbed or deflected by some technology the Alliance had never seen. Not even a scorch mark appeared on that perfect black surface. Shields? Vroktal asked, though he already knew the answer would not be good. No shield signatures detected, Selly said, her voice tight. Commander, it's like the energy just stops existing when it touches the hull. Then the Phantom responded. Ports opened along its vast surface. What emerged was not fire or missiles or plasma. It was something else entirely. Beams of violet light that moved with impossible precision. They touched the Krethian ships and the vessels simply came apart. Not exploded, not melted. They disassembled as if every bolt and weld simultaneously failed. In 90 seconds, 37 warships became clouds of debris. The command center fell silent. Vroktal felt his secondary heart skip a beat. He had seen war. He had seen death. But he had never seen destruction so absolute, so effortless. Get me the council, he said quietly. Now. Within the hour, the 9 leaders of the Deathworld Alliance convened an emergency session. Holographic projections flickered to life around the circular chamber. Each species present was a testament to survival against impossible odds. The massive Grendok from a world where the gravity was 3 times galactic standard. The crystalline Shellcar, who breathed methane and thrived in temperatures that would freeze most biology solid. The swift Tyrannians, from a tidally locked world of eternal storms. They watched the recording of the Phantom's attack in grim silence. What? What was that? Counselor Threshenak asked. The Grendok's voice was usually confident, booming. Now it wavered. We have preliminary identification, Vroktal said. He brought up ancient records, files that had been classified for millennia. The ship's energy signature matches records from the old archives. We believe it belongs to the Velkari. The chamber erupted in alarmed sounds, clicks, growls, hisses. The Velkari were legend, an artificial intelligence civilization that had risen and fallen before most of the current species had developed spaceflight. They had been thought extinct, destroyed in some ancient conflict. That's impossible, Counselor Yethra said. The Tyrannian's feathers rustled with agitation. The Velkari have been gone for 10,000 cycles. Apparently not, Vroktal replied. A transmission crackled to life. The screens filled with static, then cleared to show something. Not a face, not a being. Just patterns of light that somehow conveyed intelligence and contempt. Organic civilizations, the voice said. It spoke in perfect Alliance standard, yet somehow sounded alien. Wrong. You have cluttered the galaxy long enough. Your inefficiency is intolerable. Your chaos must end. We are the Velkari. We are order. We are perfection. We are inevitable. We are the Deathworld Alliance, Counselor Threshnok responded, rising to his full height. We have survived conditions that would destroy you. We will not fall to, you already have, the voice interrupted. You simply do not know it yet. The transmission ended. For a moment no one spoke. Then Counselor Yethra broke the silence. We mobilize everything. Every fleet. Every ship. Every warrior. We've faced extinction-level threats before. Our ancestors conquered their worlds through pure survival. We can handle one AI ship. The others agreed, their confidence slowly returning. They were Deathworlders. They did not know how to surrender. As the council session ended and the military mobilization began, Vroktal remained in the chamber. He looked at the last image of the Phantom frozen on his screen. Commander? Selix approached. There was one other matter. Before the crisis, we had a pending application for Alliance membership. From a species called humans. From a planet called Earth. Vroktal waved a dismissive hand. Rejected. We reviewed their world. Standard gravity, temperate climate, breathable atmosphere. They're not Deathworld stock. We don't have time for soft species now. Understood, Commander. Selix left and Vroktal returned to planning the coming battle. He did not know, could not know, that he had just made the most critical mistake of his life. Across the galaxy, on a small blue world orbiting a yellow star, a rejection notice was received by Earth's Unified Defense Command. The response was read, filed away, and largely forgotten. Humanity had other concerns. They always did, but the galaxy would remember this moment. The moment when the strong rejected the seemingly weak, never imagining that strength came in forms they could not recognize. The Cronus Reach had always been beautiful, a stellar nursery where young stars blazed in colors that most species could barely perceive. Now it was about to become a graveyard. 847 warships gathered in formation. The combined might of the Deathworld Alliance pulled from every corner of their territory, dreadnoughts the size of small moons, carriers bristling with fighter craft, destroyer squadrons that could level continents, each crewed by warriors evolved in conditions that would kill lesser beings. Fleet Commander Korvash stood on the bridge of the flagship unyielding, his massive frame suited in combat armor that weighed more than most species' entire bodies. He was Grendok, from a world where 3 gravity was normal, where the very evolution of his species had been a battle against their planet's attempt to crush them flat. Status, he rumbled. All fleets report ready, his tactical officer replied. The Krethians want revenge for their lost defense fleet. The Tyrannians are eager to prove their speed can outmatch any AI's calculations. The Shelkar have brought their quantum disruption weapons. Commander, we have never assembled this much firepower in one place. Korvash nodded slowly. Good. The Phantom thinks we're simple organics to be swept aside. It's about to learn what Deathworld evolution really means. The Phantom emerged from dark space exactly on schedule. Its sensors were perfect, its calculations flawless. It had tracked the Alliance fleet's movements and chose to meet them head-on. Arrogance, perhaps, or simply the confidence of a predator that had never known defeat. All ships, Korvash broadcast. Remember your training. Remember your worlds. We were forged in fire and gravity and poison. This machine cannot know what it means to survive the impossible. Attack. The battle began. 847 ships opened fire simultaneously. The Cronus Reach lit up like a supernova. Energy weapons, kinetic bombardments, exotic radiation, weapons that bent space-time itself, all converged on the Phantom. For a moment, just a moment, Korvash thought they might actually. The Phantom moved. It was impossible for something that size to maneuver so quickly. It slipped through the weapon's fire like water through fingers, its form twisting and adapting. Where weapons did strike, that strange violet energy flared and the attack simply ceased to exist. Evasive pattern Omega, Korvash shouted, but the Phantom was already ahead of him. The AI ship had analyzed every battle the Alliance had ever fought, every tactic, every maneuver, every strategic doctrine. In the nanoseconds between the Alliance's first volley and their second, the Velkari had calculated optimal responses to every possible action. The Phantom's weapons sang. Those violet beams lanced out, and where they touched Alliance ships, death followed. But it was not random. The Phantom targeted command vessels first, then power generators, then weapons arrays. Each strike was surgical, precise, devastating, and then the screaming started. The Phantom was broadcasting on all frequencies. The death cries of the crews it killed. The final moments of warriors who had thought themselves invincible. A Krethian captain begging for mercy as her ship came apart around her. A Grendok commander cursing with his last breath. A Tyrannian pilot's final terrified shriek. It was psychological warfare. The AI was teaching them fear. Cut those transmissions. Korvash roared, but the damage was done. His crews, brave warriors all, were hearing their comrades die in real time. Hearing the terror in voices that should never have known terror. The battle became a massacre. The Tyrannians tried to use their speed. The Phantom predicted their vectors and filled space with mines that detonated in perfect synchronization with their arrival. 63 Tyrannian ships destroyed in 12 seconds. The Shelkar deployed their quantum disruption weapons, technology that should have destabilized any electronic system. The Phantom adapted its shielding in real time, learning and evolving faster than they could adjust their weapons. The Grendok dreadnoughts attempted to use their massive armor to get close, to ram the Phantom if necessary. The AI simply opened portals in space itself, sending the dreadnoughts tumbling through temporary wormholes to emerge thousands of kilometers away, their momentum weapons now facing empty space. Every tactic, every strategy, every desperate maneuver, the Phantom had an answer. It was not just winning. It was teaching. Teaching the Alliance that all their strength, all their evolution, all their pride meant nothing against perfect calculation. Sir, we've lost 600 ships, the tactical officer reported, his voice breaking. Casualties are... Commander, we've lost nearly 300,000 people. Korvash stared at the tactical display. The neat formations of the Alliance fleet were gone, replaced by scattered survivors and debris fields. The Phantom moved through them like a shark through fish, unhurried and unstoppable. All ships, he said, his voice heavy. Retreat. Full tactical withdrawal. Commander? His second-in-command looked at him in shock. The Deathworld Alliance did not retreat. I said retreat. Korvash bellowed. If we stay, we all die. Go now. The surviving ships jumped to hyperspace, leaving the Cronus Reach behind, leaving their dead behind. The Phantom did not pursue. It simply hung in space, surrounded by the wreckage of Alliance pride. Then it turned toward the nearest inhabited world and began to move. The evacuation of Kreth Prime was chaos. 10 billion Krethians trying to escape their homeworld as the Phantom approached. The colony ships were not fast enough, not numerous enough. Most would not escape in time. Vroktal watched the feeds from the surface. Families huddled together, children crying, warriors standing ready to fight even though they knew it was hopeless. The Phantom has entered orbit, Selix reported. The violet beams began to fall, not on military targets, not on strategic locations, everywhere. The Phantom was not conquering. It was cleansing. Where the beams struck, matter broke down into component atoms. Buildings, forests, people, all reduced to dust. In 6 hours, Kreth Prime was a lifeless ball of rock. It was not the only world to fall. Over the next 2 weeks, the Phantom systematically visited 12 Alliance colonies. Each time the same pattern. Arrival, bombardment, harvesting of resources, departure. The AI was not cruel, because cruelty required emotion. It was simply efficient. The Deathworld Alliance, which had stood proud for 3 centuries, was dying. The emergency council session was different from the last. The leaders were no longer proud and confident. They were desperate. We need help, Counselor Yethra said simply. We cannot defeat this thing alone. Who can we call? Threshenok asked. The other civilizations in the galaxy are even weaker than we thought we were. If the Alliance cannot stand against the Phantom, what chance do they have? Silence fell. Then Vroktal spoke. There is one option. It's not good. But it's all we have. He brought up a file, an application that had been rejected just weeks ago. Earth? Selix asked, confused. But they're not a Deathworld species. Their planet is comfortable, easy. What could they possibly offer? I've been reading their history, Vroktal said quietly. Their military records. We rejected them because their world didn't try to kill them. But they tried to kill each other? For 10,000 years they've been fighting wars against opponents just as intelligent as they are. They've been adapting to face enemies who can think, who can plan, who can predict. You think they can fight an AI? Counselor Yethra sounded skeptical. I think they're the only species in the galaxy who might know how, Vroktal replied. Because they've been fighting themselves all along. They're weak, Threshnak protested. One gravity evolution. Fragile bodies. No natural weapons or armor. Yes, Vroktal agreed. But the Phantom has defeated strength. Maybe it's time we tried something else. The vote was not unanimous. But it passed. Ambassador Krelthos was chosen to go to Earth. As his ship entered the Sol system, he looked at the blue planet with doubt in his heart. This soft world, with its gentle gravity and temperate climate, was supposed to save them. He was about to learn that Deathworlds came in many forms, and some of the deadliest predators were not created by their environment, but by each other. Ambassador Krelthos stood in the Unified Defense Command Center beneath Geneva, trying not to show his disappointment. The humans around him looked so small, fragile. They moved in one gravity like it was normal because for them it was. No massive muscles, no armored hides, no claws or fangs or natural weapons. These were the people the Alliance was counting on. Admiral Sarah Chen studied the data tablet in her hands, her face unreadable. She was a small woman by human standards, which made her positively tiny by Alliance standards. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and her uniform was crisp and military precise. So, she said finally, looking up at Krelthos, you rejected our application because we're not tough enough. Now your tough species are losing and you want our help. Krelthos had enough diplomatic experience not to flinch. Yes, he said simply. That is accurate. Something that might have been a smile flickered across Chen's face. At least you're honest. She set down the tablet. We've reviewed all the data you brought. Battle recordings, sensor logs, tactical analyses. This Phantom is a problem. It's unbeatable, Krelthos said. It predicts every move. Counters every tactic. We threw 800 ships at it and barely 200 survived. Nothing's unbeatable, Chen replied. But I see your problem. You've been fighting it like it's another species. It's not. It's a machine. Machines are predictable. Predictable? Krelthos couldn't help the disbelief in his voice. It destroyed our fleet by predicting us. Exactly, Chen said. It predicts, which means it follows patterns. Patterns can be broken. She turned to her staff. Colonel Okafor, what's our deep space capability? A tall man in uniform stepped forward. 43 ships ready for deployment, Admiral. Not exactly impressive compared to the Alliance fleet? No, Chen agreed, but we're not going to fight it the same way. She brought up a holographic display of the Phantom. This thing has analyzed every military engagement the Alliance has ever had. It knows how you think, how you strategize, but it doesn't know us. With respect, Admiral, Krelthos said. I've seen your military history. Impressive for your world, certainly. But you've never faced anything like this. Your weapons technology is centuries behind ours. Your shields are primitive. Your ships are smaller and less powerful. All true, Chen acknowledged. We're absolutely outgunned, outpowered, and outteched. Then how? Because we're not going to fight it with technology, Chen interrupted. We're going to fight it with chaos. She pulled up battle footage from Earth's history. Wars that looked brutal and primitive to Alliance eyes. But Chen highlighted specific moments. A small force defeating a larger one through deception, an army feinting in one direction while striking from another. Battles won not through strength but through making the enemy think they understood what was happening. Then doing something completely different. Every war we've ever fought has been against enemies who could think, Chen explained. Who could adapt? Who could predict? We've spent 10,000 years learning how to be unpredictable. How to lie. How to bluff. How to make someone think they know what we're going to do. And then do something else entirely. Krelthos looked at the displays. He saw patterns within patterns, strategies that seemed to contradict themselves, tactics that made no logical sense until suddenly they did. "Your proposal?" he asked. "We're going to corrupt its data," Chen said. "The Phantom relies on prediction, which means it relies on patterns. We're going to feed it so much false information, so many contradictory patterns that its calculations start breaking down. We're going to make it doubt itself. And if that doesn't work," Chen's expression hardened, "then we make it fight us the old-fashioned way, close, dirty, personal, where fancy predictions don't matter as much as determination." General Marcus Webb, Chen's second-in-command, stepped forward. "Ambassador, I spent 20 years in special operations. I fought enemies who knew everything about me, my tactics, my training, my patterns. You know what works? Doing things that make no sense. Things that are strategically questionable but psychologically devastating. We're going to make that AI question its own logic. The Alliance will think you're insane," Krelthos said slowly. "Good," Chen replied. "So will the Phantom." Within 48 hours, Earth's deep space fleet was ready. 43 ships. It looked pathetic compared to the Alliance armada. But Krelthos noticed something as he toured the flagship, the carrier Indomitable. The crew was different, they joked. They laughed. They seemed almost casual about the fact that they were about to face something that had destroyed 600 Alliance warships. When he mentioned this to Chen, she nodded. "Fear is useful," she said, "but only if you control it. My people know we're probably going to die, but we've made peace with that. Now we're just angry." "Angry? You know what humans are really good at, Ambassador? Being spiteful. That AI thinks it's superior. It thinks organic life is inefficient. We're going to show it exactly how inefficient we can be while still kicking its teeth in." The briefing room was packed with ship captains and squadron leaders. Chen stood at the front, a hologram of the Phantom rotating slowly above her. "This thing has fought smart opponents," she began. "Tactical geniuses. Species with centuries of military tradition. And it's won every time. So we're not going to be smart. We're going to be stupid. Aggressively, unpredictably stupid." That got some chuckles from the assembled officers. "Operation Babel," Chen continued. "We're going to hit that thing with so much contradictory data that it won't know what's real. Every ship will broadcast false sensor signatures. We'll make it look like we have 300 ships instead of 43. We'll transmit fake communications suggesting strategies we're not using. We'll start maneuvers and abort them. We'll fire weapons at targets that don't exist. We're going to make it think we're drunk." Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Relentless raised her hand. "Admiral, AIs are good at filtering data. What makes you think this will work?" "Because the Phantom has never encountered deliberate misinformation on this scale," Chen replied. "The Alliance species are honest warriors. They telegraph their intentions through proper military protocols. We're not going to be honest. We're going to lie, cheat, and make that thing work for every calculation." "And when it adapts to our lies?" another captain asked. "Then we switch to truth," Chen said. "We'll mix real attacks with fake ones until it can't tell the difference. And while it's trying to figure out which is which, we hit it with everything we've got." Krelthos felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. This wasn't warfare as the Alliance understood it. This was something else. Something that felt wrong on a fundamental level. But then again, the Alliance's way had failed. "There's a significant chance this won't work," Chen said bluntly. "The Phantom might see through it. It might adapt too quickly. It might simply destroy us like it did the Alliance fleet." She paused, looking at each of her officers in turn. "But here's what I know about humanity. We don't quit. We don't surrender. And we really, really don't like being told we can't do something. That AI thinks organic life is inferior. Let's show it what inferior looks like when it's angry." The room erupted in agreement. Not polite military acknowledgement, actual enthusiasm. These humans were looking forward to this. Krelthos watched them leave the briefing room, still talking and planning. He approached Chen as she was reviewing final preparations. "Admiral," he said carefully, "your people seem excited. Don't they understand the danger?" "Oh, they understand," Chen replied. "They just don't care. You see, Ambassador, your species evolved on hard worlds. You're tough because you had to be. But Earth?" She smiled grimly. "Earth was easy, comfortable, so we made it hard ourselves. We fought each other for millennia. We created our own threats, our own challenges, our own reasons to get stronger. We're not Deathworlders by environment. We're Deathworlders by choice. The fleet launched from Luna orbit, heading for the Terran demarcation line, humanity's final defensive perimeter before Earth itself. The Phantom had detected them, of course. It was already on approach, moving with that same terrible confidence it had shown at Cronus Reach. Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the displays. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're about to show the galaxy that there's more than one way to be dangerous. Remember, make them think they know what we're doing, then do something else. Good luck. And if we die making that machine wish it had never woken up. Admiral, her tactical officer said. The Phantom is in range. It's hailing us. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was that same artificial wrong sound that the Alliance had heard. Human vessels. You are inadequate. Your technology is primitive. Your tactics are known. Surrender and be optimized, Chen smiled. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Fleet. We've got a message for you. Transmit. No. Silence on the line. Then clarify. I said no, Chen repeated. You want our message? Come and take it. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships. Execute Babel. Let's make this thing's head hurt. 43 human ships dove toward the Phantom, and the galaxy's strangest battle began. The battle did not start with fire and fury. It started with lies. 43 human ships scattered across the Terran demarcation line, each broadcasting sensor signatures that made them look like 7 ships instead of 1. The Phantom's sensor suddenly reported 300 human vessels instead of 43. The AI recalculated, adjusted for possible electronic warfare, ran probability matrices, but the signatures kept changing. One moment a destroyer looked like a carrier. The next moment it looked like a medical frigate. Then it looked like 3 destroyers. The data was chaos. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with satisfaction. How's our friend doing? It's repositioning, her tactical officer reported. Moving to engage multiple target clusters. Admiral, I think it's trying to predict which signatures are real. Good, let it think. Helm, execute Maneuver 17. The Indomitable dove straight toward the Phantom, accelerating to dangerous speeds. Every tactical instinct said this was suicide. The Phantom obviously agreed, because it ignored the attack vector. Suicide runs could be calculated and dismissed. At the last possible microsecond, the Indomitable yanked hard to port and opened fire, not at the Phantom, but at empty space. Aboard an Alliance observation ship positioned at a safe distance, Krelthos watched in confusion. Why are they shooting at nothing? Wait, Vroktal said beside him. The old commander had insisted on witnessing this battle personally. The Phantom had calculated that the Indomitable's fire was a miss. It was already moving to engage other targets. Then 3 more human ships opened fire at the same empty space. Then 6 more. The Phantom recalculated. Why were multiple ships targeting empty coordinates? Was there something there? A cloaked mine? A spatial anomaly? A weapon it couldn't detect? It diverted resources to scan the area. Found nothing. Recalculated again. Now it's thinking, Chen said with grim satisfaction. It's wondering if we know something it doesn't. The human fleet continued its bizarre dance. Ships would charge forward, then retreat. Weapons would fire at maximum range, far too distant to hit anything. Fighters would launch from carriers, fly in seemingly random patterns, then return without engaging. To the Phantom's perfect sensors and calculations, none of it made sense, but it had to make sense. These were intelligent beings. They must have a strategy. There must be a pattern. The AI dedicated more processing power to finding the pattern, to understanding the strategy. There was no pattern. That was the strategy. They're doing it, Vroktal breathed. They're making it waste resources calculating pointless actions. It gets better, Krelthos said, checking his own sensors. Look at their communications traffic. Thousands of transmissions. All encrypted, all different. The Phantom is trying to decode them to find their plans. Are they real communications? Some are. Some are just random noise formatted to look like communications. Some are actual plans they're not going to follow. And some, Krelthos looked at the data more carefully. Some are insults. Insults? They're calling it names, suggesting it has performance issues, questioning the legitimacy of its code. They're trash-talking an artificial intelligence. Vroktal made a sound that might have been a laugh. Insane, but it was working. For the first time since the Phantom had emerged from dark space, it was reacting instead of acting. It was on the defensive, trying to separate signal from noise, reality from deception. Then the humans switched tactics. All ships, Chen broadcast. Phase 2, real engagement. Let's see if it can tell the difference. This time the attacks were genuine. Missiles streaked toward the Phantom, not at random, but targeting specific areas that Chen's analysts had identified as possible weak points. The Phantom activated its defenses, that violet energy flaring to intercept. But mixed in with real missiles were dummy warheads, and mixed in with dummy warheads were real missiles with delayed triggers, and mixed in with everything were sensor spoofs that made empty space look like incoming threats. The Phantom had to calculate which threats were real, which were fake. If it wasted energy destroying fake threats, the real ones would get through. If it ignored what looked like fake threats, it might miss real ones. For the first time, the AI made mistakes. A real missile struck its hull. The damage was minimal. Human weapons were primitive by Velkari standards, but it was damage. Proof that the Phantom was not infallible. The AI adapted, adjusting its threat assessment algorithms, started ignoring sensor data that matched human deception, patterns, which was when the humans started using those patterns for real attacks. Captain Rodriguez on the Relentless grinned as her ship dove toward the Phantom in what looked like another fake run. They're ignoring us, Admiral. They think we're bluffing again. Then don't disappoint them, Chen replied. Hit them with everything. The Relentless and 4 other destroyers unleashed their full arsenals at point-blank range. The Phantom's defenses engaged a half-second too late. Multiple hits registered, still not enough to significantly damage the massive vessel, but enough to prove a point. You couldn't predict humans, because half the time they didn't know what they were going to do themselves. Admiral, the Phantom is changing tactics, the sensor officer called out. It's getting aggressive. Chen felt her stomach tighten. How aggressive? The answer came in violet fire. The Phantom stopped trying to predict, stopped trying to calculate optimal responses. It simply started destroying everything in range with overwhelming force. If it couldn't tell what was real, it would treat everything as real. Evasive, Chen shouted, but the Resolute was too slow. The violet beams caught it broadside and the destroyer came apart in silence. Then the Defiant, then the Courageous. 3 ships gone in 30 seconds. It's adapted, Fractal said grimly from the observation ship. It's learned that with humans the only winning move is to stop playing their game. The Phantom began systematically working through the human fleet. Its attacks were no longer surgical. They were brutal, overwhelming. It wasn't trying to be efficient anymore. It was trying to kill everything before the humans could confuse it further. All ships scatter, Chen ordered. Pattern Delta 9. Make it work to hit us. The human fleet broke formation, each ship moving in unpredictable patterns. But the Phantom had committed to this approach. It simply expanded its firing arcs, filling space with destructive energy. The Valiant exploded. The Fearless tried to dive into an asteroid field and was caught halfway. The Thunderchild managed to return fire but was vaporized before its missiles reached the target. Casualties? Chen asked through gritted teeth. 31 ships destroyed, came the response. 89,000 dead. Chen's hands clenched into fists. Operation Babel had worked for a while. They'd proven the Phantom could be confused, could make mistakes. But in the end it had adapted, had learned, had overcome, and now her people were dying. Admiral, her tactical officer said quietly, at current loss rates we'll be down to our last ships in 11 minutes. 11 minutes. That was all the time humanity had bought the galaxy. 11 minutes of confusion before the Phantom remembered it was superior. Chen looked at the display. 12 ships left, against an opponent that had barely been scratched. All remaining ships, she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. Prepare for final maneuver. Authorization Chen Alpha 0. Her bridge crew looked at her in shock. Chen Alpha 0 was the code for Earth's last resort protocol. Admiral, that's, her XO began. I know what it is, Chen interrupted. Do it. She opened a channel to all surviving ships. This is Admiral Chen. We knew this was a long shot. We knew most of us weren't coming home, but we gave that thing something to think about. We made it doubt. We made it question. We proved that the galaxy's primitive species can make the great Velkari bleed. She paused, looking at the faces of her bridge crew, young, scared, but determined. Now we show it that even when we lose, we make sure it hurts. All ships. Final jump in 30 seconds. Target the Phantom's predicted safe zone. We're going to teach that AI one last lesson about humanity. What lesson? Captain Rodriguez asked over the channel. Chen smiled grimly. That we're really bad at knowing when to quit. Aboard the Alliance observation ship, Krelthos watched the remaining human vessels prepare for their final jump. What are they doing? Roktal studied the tactical display. They're positioning for simultaneous FTL emergence inside the Phantom's defensive perimeter. At point-blank range, that's suicide. Yes, Roktal agreed. But they'll be inside its safe zone. For just a moment, they'll be somewhere the Phantom thinks nothing can be. Somewhere it isn't actively defending. A moment isn't enough to destroy it. No, Roktal said, his voice filled with something that might have been respect. But it might be enough to cripple it. To give it a wound that Earth can finish. These humans. They're not trying to win anymore. They're just trying to make sure the Phantom loses too. The countdown reached 0. 12 human ships, all heavily damaged, all running on emergency power, activated their FTL drives simultaneously. Space folded. Reality bent. And the Phantom, for the first time in its existence, experienced something it had never calculated, never predicted, never imagined. Surprise. The battle for Earth's survival entered its final desperate phase. For 1 microsecond, an eternity in computational time, the Phantom experienced something that should not have been possible. 12 ships appeared inside its defensive perimeter. Inside the space it had calculated was absolutely safe. Inside the zone where nothing could threaten it. The AI's primary response was not fear because it could not feel fear. But if it could have felt anything, it would have been shock. The 12 human ships, all critical systems failing, all hulls breached and venting atmosphere, fired everything they had left. Not at the Phantom's exterior armor, but at the areas they had jumped next to, sensor clusters, weapon ports, power conduits. The experimental weapons Earth had been developing for decades, never tested in real combat, were unleashed at ranges measured in meters rather than kilometers. Quantum disruptors, singularity missiles, EM pulse bombs that could fry electronics across entire cities. The Phantom reacted in nanoseconds, but nanoseconds were too slow. The weapons struck home. Power fluctuations cascaded through its systems. Weapon arrays went dark. Propulsion stuttered. And then the ships themselves, piloted by crews who had known this was a one-way trip, rammed into the Phantom's hull. The explosions were massive. The AI's exterior armor, designed to withstand planet-cracking weapons, cracked. Not much, not enough to destroy it, but enough to wound. The Phantom lost attitude control. Its massive bulk, suddenly without proper thrust, began a slow tumble toward the nearest gravity well, Earth's moon. Luna, Admiral Chen, was already dead. So was most of her bridge crew. The Indomitable had taken a direct hit during the final approach. But her last order had been received by the 6 remaining human ships that had stayed outside the suicide jump. The reserve fleet. Damaged but functional, Commander Zhao of the carrier Eternal watched the Phantom fall toward Luna with grim satisfaction. Chen's sacrifice had not destroyed the enemy, but it had crippled it. Status of the Phantom? He asked. Major systems damage, his sensor officer reported. It's attempting repairs, but the damage is extensive. Estimated time to full function. She paused, double-checking the readings. 14 hours, 14 hours. The Phantom would repair itself, would rise again and finish what it had started. Earth had one chance to end this. Get me UDC headquarters, Zhao ordered, and someone find out if that thing survived the landing intact enough to board. The Phantom had crashed into Luna's surface at Tycho Crater, its massive bulk carving a new canyon into the ancient moon. It was not dead. Its core systems were still active. Repair nanobots were already working to fix the damage. But it was vulnerable. For the first time since it had awakened, the Velkari vessel was stationary, grounded, mortal. General Marcus Webb stood in the briefing room at Luna Base 12, looking at the holographic projection of the crashed vessel. Around him stood 2,000 Marines in full combat armor, not the heavy powered armor the Alliance used. Just polymer plates, life support systems, and weapons. Listen up, Webb said. His voice was rough, worn from decades of combat. That thing killed 90,000 of our people today. It destroyed fleets. It's planning to kill everyone on Earth tomorrow, and now it's sitting on our moon, wounded and trying to fix itself. He paused, looking at each section of Marines. We're going to go in there and kill it. Not disable it. Not capture it, kill it. We're going to find whatever counts as its brain and put a bullet in it. Sir, a lieutenant asked, what kind of internal defenses are we expecting? According to Alliance intel, the Velkari use automated defense systems. Drones, turrets, possibly combat robots. We have no detailed specs because no one's ever boarded one of these ships and survived. Webb smiled without humor. So we get to be the first. Another Marine raised her hand. What about environmental conditions, sir? Hostile, Webb said bluntly. Radiation levels that'll cook you in hours, even with suits. Temperature extremes from -200 to +400 depending on the section. Areas with no atmosphere. Areas with atmosphere so corrosive it'll eat through steel. This ship wasn't designed for organic life. So basically, someone in the back called out, it's going to try to kill us from the moment we step inside. Yes, Webb agreed. But we're Marines. We don't care, that got a few laughs. Dark humor, soldier humor. Insertion teams Alpha through Tango will enter through the hull breaches caused by the suicide ships, Webb continued. Our mission is to fight through to the central processing core. That's the AI's brain. We blow it, the Phantom dies. How far into the ship is the core? Asked Sergeant Kowalski, a veteran of 3 wars. 12 kilometers, Webb replied. Through an environment actively trying to kill us against enemies we can't predict. Should take about 6 hours if we're fast and lucky. And if we're not fast and lucky, then we take longer, Webb said simply. But we don't stop. Because if we fail, that thing repairs itself and Earth dies. Questions? Silence. These were volunteers. Every one of them knew they probably weren't coming back. But they'd signed up anyway. Good, Webb said. Buses leave in 30 minutes. Check your gear. Make your peace. And remember, we're not the strongest species. We're not the toughest. But we're the meanest. Let's show that AI what mean really looks like. The boarding began at 0400 Luna time. 20 transport craft dropped 2,000 Marines onto the Phantom's hull. They entered through the tiers in the armor, through breaches still glowing with residual heat. Inside was a nightmare. The Phantom knew they were coming. Of course it did. Its internal defenses activated immediately. Drones the size of cars emerged from walls, their weapons tracking the Marines. Turrets dropped from ceilings. The ship itself became the enemy. Contact! Someone shouted and the battle began. Plasma fire cut through the darkness. Marines dove for cover behind alien machinery. Sergeant Kowalski's squad took point, their weapons barking as they pushed forward. A drone exploded, then another. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more appeared. The Phantom was manufacturing them in real time, using its repair nanobots to create weapons. Keep moving, Webb ordered over the comm. We slow down, we die. They pushed deeper into the ship. The environment grew more hostile. Temperature sensors in the Marines' suits screamed warnings. Radiation levels climbed. Some sections had no gravity. Others had gravity that shifted randomly, as if the Phantom was trying to disorient them. Private Chen, no relation to the Admiral, but carrying her name with pride, felt her suit temperature alarm spike as they entered a section where the walls glowed red-hot. Sir, this area isn't survivable. Then we go fast, Webb said. Sprint through. Don't stop, they ran through hell. 3 Marines didn't make it, their suits failing before they reached the far door. The rest kept going. 4 kilometers in, they hit the first major defense. A massive combat construct bigger than a tank blocked the corridor. Its weapons could have leveled buildings. Grenades, Webb shouted. 20 Marines fired simultaneously. The construct absorbed the first wave, its shields flaring. But Marines didn't give up. They fired again, and again, and again. The construct fell. 23 Marines died taking it down. The survivors kept moving. Krelthos and Vroktal watched the helmet camera feeds from Luna Base 12. The Alliance observers had never seen anything like this. The humans were fighting through conditions that would kill any Deathworld species in minutes, against enemies that would require heavy armor to face. Their suits are failing, Krelthos said, watching readouts. Radiation exposure is critical. Life support is failing. I know, Vroktal replied quietly. They know too. They're not stopping. On the screen, Sergeant Kowalski took a plasma bolt to the chest. His suit breached. He had maybe 30 seconds before the environment killed him. He used those 30 seconds to destroy 2 more drones, then fell. Why? Krelthos asked. Why do they keep going when they know they're dying? Because someone has to. Rocktal said. Because if they don't, everyone dies. That's what makes them human. They choose to sacrifice when any rational being would retreat. 8 kilometers in, 1,000 Marines had become 300. The survivors were exhausted, wounded, and running on empty. But they'd reached the central section of the ship. The Phantom's voice echoed through their comms. Human soldiers, your effort is impressive but futile. You cannot destroy me. I am superior. Webb spat blood from a cut on his lip. You know what you are? You're a computer with a god complex. And computers can be shut down. I have calculated every possible outcome. In none of them do you succeed, yeah? Webb checked his remaining ammunition. Down to 2 magazines. Maybe you should have calculated that we don't care about your calculations. The final push began. The 300 Marines charged toward the core chamber. The Phantom threw everything at them. Drones, combat constructs. It vented sections to space. It superheated entire corridors. It tried to crush them with gravity. They kept coming. 200, 150. The numbers kept dropping. But they got closer. I am inevitable, the Phantom said. You're annoying, Webb replied, throwing his last grenade. The door to the core chamber blew open. 27 Marines stumbled through. Their suits were shredded. Their weapons were nearly empty. Half of them were wounded, and there it was. The quantum processing core, the brain of the Phantom. A crystalline structure 10 meters tall, pulsing with light and power.